All right, everyone, we have to talk about the lunacy of some of the more obvious anti-gun folks in the country. There was a tweet by the USA Today, and I've archived it in the description. I don't know if the video will play on archive.is, but you'll get the point. They had a little video thing where they were talking about possible modifications to the AR-15 that could have been deployed by the shooter in Sutherland, Texas, the church shooter. Of course, none of these modifications were actually used. One of them involved a chainsaw bayonet. I shit you not. Apparently, according to the USA Today, it's a fairly standard feature to be able to fix like a small power saw on the end of your AR-15. Why you would do this is beyond me, because then wouldn't that make the weapon less effective at distance? Isn't generally the idea to shoot things before they get close enough? Like, what's the difference? Why would you need a chainsaw bayonet instead of just having like a pike or a standard bayonet on the end? I'm not sure exactly what the difference would be. I would think it would weigh more and be kind of noisy too. Like, we're having this like fucking national debate. Oh, should we have this evil silencers, says Hillary Clinton. Just think if the Las Vegas shooter had a silenced automatic weapon, as though that's, actually going to happen. How many more people would have died because they only fled when they heard the gunshots? They didn't flee when they started seeing blood spattering everywhere. I'm sure that didn't bother anybody until they heard the actual gunfire, Miss Clinton. Wouldn't a chainsaw bayonet be generally a bad idea? I'm thinking it probably would, because of course if you're worried about silent and lethal, I would think that would make a little bit too much noise. Also, what the fuck? Seriously, what the fuck are you talking about? Okay, you have a little chainsaw on the end of your gun. Vroom, vroom. Okay, now I can actually go and use this. Unlike a knife that you don't have to, use a ripcord on or something. I don't know. But the USA Today thinks this is a standard feature, and people are pointing out that's nuts. The shooter did not have a chainsaw bayonet. Now, originally, when they posted it, what they said there, it indicated that USA Today was thinking that he actually had that modification, which of course is false. They had to come out and send a second tweet, and they're like, oh, we're not saying that he had a chainsaw bayonet, we're saying he could have used very easily obtained a chainsaw bayonet. Now, I didn't even personally know a chainsaw bayonet existed. I would think that would be something that a drunken redneck would put on their sporting rifle to look cool, even though the weapon becomes less functional. Hey, I put a rubber mallet on the end of my gun. And so other people were talking about other things that they could potentially affix to an AR-15. Someone's like, oh, here, this hydrogen bomb is perfectly legal to attach to your AR-15. I thought it'd be a good idea. What if you took like a spitting cobra and you put them on the end and like duct tape it on so you can like wave the gun around? It would certainly increase the melee distance involved by a good, 5 to 10 feet. I would think that would be way more deadly. Oh, you can get a spitting cobra real easy on the black market. We obviously need cobra control. But I mean, come on. The way that they posted it, they had to have been dumb enough to think that nobody would critically think about what they were actually suggesting. Yes, I'm sure the average person wants 10 pounds of extra weight on their AR-15, spinning around and making a lot of noise. It makes so much sense. What could possibly go wrong with this? They're talking about, it's like the people who most often weigh in on guns and are the most vocal about them know nothing about them. They don't know what a suppressor is. They don't know what a clip versus a magazine is. They don't know anything. They don't even know what an AR-15 looks like. They've certainly never held one. They've probably never seen one in person. Most of these people, they live, again, in their gated upper-class suburban community or some urban area where they don't really encounter guns. The only time they see a gun is when the police officer is carrying one or when the gang member is starting to shoot things up. And because they live in their nice community, they don't generally see the latter. They read about it in the news, or they hear it, a few blocks away from their nice neighborhood. That's really the limits of their exposure to firearms. In the same token, they don't know anything about like a sword or a bayonet, apparently especially a bayonet. They think that people mount chainsaws on their so-called assault rifles. Possible modifications also include you bent the fucking gun around to aim at your own head to blow it off, because that's probably about as effective as trying to put a chainsaw on the end of your gun. And you have to be crazy to think that that's a general modification that somebody with common sense at all is actually going to do. You also have to be dumb to think that if the Texas shooter mounted a chainsaw or some sort of a electronic sawing device on the front of his AR-15, that would have made him more lethal under the situation. No, he opened fire. He was shooting at distance, maybe not at 100 yards, but he was opening fire. So what the fuck would a chainsaw bayonet or any other bayonet have done? Okay, he's going to, instead of standing back and mowing people down who aren't, they don't have guns on them, so they're not able to fire back, instead of being nice and safe and preserving his own life while he mows down as many of them as possible, instead he wants to wade in with a chainsaw bayonet and start slicing people. Okay, yeah, well, I mean, if he's a total psycho, yeah, he might, for some reason, think that's a good idea. The people at the USA Today don't know what they're talking about. Possible modifications also include a bunch of toothpicks, a Pez dispenser, or anything else under the sun. Okay, yeah, if you can duct tape it to your gun and carry it, yeah, you can modify your gun that way. I've never heard of anybody putting a saw on the end of their gun. If they do, okay, more power to you. You can cut some saplings while you go out sport shooting or something. I mean, come on. The worst part is there are people who take it seriously. Then there are the really whacked out people, where if you point out, well, this is wrong, it's functionally and fundamentally incorrect, and it doesn't make any sense, they'll say, oh, you fucking gun nut, you don't know, he could have put anything on there. Okay, yeah, all right, he could have had 10 laser sights on it at the same time. He could have mounted a Lego set on the front of his gun. He could have a dinosaur egg mounted on the side. So fucking what? It would be about the same. It would be about as functional as what they are suggesting a possible modification. They don't even originally make it clear. They were hoping that people just passively absorb it and think, oh shit, we've got to ban those chainsaw bayonets. They were hoping that people would be morons when people who were intelligent pointed it out. They're like, well, he didn't have one of these. They tried to deflect and act as though people's primary concern wasn't the fact that they were suggesting that this would be done by the average person, or that it was a problem, or that it was even, physically feasible, but that the main concern was the fact that they hadn't indicated that he didn't modify his AR-15 in such a manner. All right, well, have fun with your chainsaw bayonets. You've just turned your weapon that is primarily meant for distance into essentially a front-heavy melee weapon that really it doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't. Why don't you just take a stick and put a chainsaw on the end of it, or a small, one of those little electric saws, and have a little gas generator on the side, and you start it, you have your little saw, and you can, saw branches that you can't quite reach with a regular handsaw. That's about as useful. It would look kind of cool, maybe Star Wars-ish or Fallout-ish, as the case may be, but it doesn't make the the overall weapon particularly dangerous. It makes it dangerously unbalanced and fucked up. So they really screwed the pooch on that one, but it was funny. The responses were primarily satirical images. That's about all. Peace out.